بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله محمد.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Abu Salih Hamdun bin Ahmad bin Amara al-Qasar. He came from Nishapur. It is through him that the Malamatiyah teaching spread among the people of Nishapur. He was a companion of Salim al-Barusi and Abu Turab al-Nakshabi. He died in the year 271. Someone asked Hamdun, "When can a man speak to people?" He answered, "When it becomes known to him that he would fulfill an obligation imposed on him by God Most High, or when he knows that someone is destined to perish by adhering to a reprehensible innovation, and he hopes that God would save that person from it." He said, "Whoever thinks that his soul is better than the soul of Pharaoh has shown pride." He also said, Since I have learned that the ruler can see through the evildoers, the fear of the ruler has never departed from my heart." He said, "Whenever you see a drunk man, stagger like him so that you would not elevate yourself above him, thereby calling upon yourself a similar affliction." Abdullah bin Munazil said, "I asked Abu Salih to admonish me. If you can keep yourself from being angry about anything in this life, then do so." Once a friend of his was dying, as he kept vigil at his bed. When he died, Hamdun put down the fire in the lamp. They told him, "In such circumstances, one adds oil to the lamp." He answered, "Until this moment, the oil has belonged to him, but now it belongs to his heirs." Hamdun said, he who looks into the ways of the pious ancestors will realize his shortcomings and his inability to attain the rank of the true men." He also said, "Do not disclose to anyone things that you would like to be hidden from you." Abul Qasim al-Junaid bin Muhammad. He was the leader of the master of this Sufi community. His family originally came from Nihawand, but he was born and raised in Iraq. His father was a glassware merchant. Because of this, he was called the bottler. He was a jurist who adhered to the school of Abu Thawr. When he was just 20 years old, he was already issuing legal opinions in the sessions that were presided over by Abu Thawr. He studied under his uncle Al-Sari al-Saqati, under Al-Harith al-Muhasibi, and under Muhammad bin Ali al-Qasab. He died in the year 297. I heard Muhammad bin al-Hussein, may God have mercy on him, say, I heard Muhammad bin al-Hussein al-Baghdadi say, I heard Abu Bakr al-Farghani say, I heard someone asked al-Junaid about the Sufi Gnostic. He answered, "He who speaks of your secret, even though you yourself remain silent." I heard Sheikh Abu Abdurrahman as-Sulami, may God have mercy on him, say, I heard Muhammad bin Abdullah al-Razi say, I heard Abu Muhammad al-Jurayri say, I heard al-Junaid say, "We learned Sufism not through words, but through hunger, the renunciation of this world, and through depriving ourselves from the things which we are accustomed to and in which we take delight." I heard Muhammad bin al-Hussein, may God have mercy on him, say, I heard Abu Bakr al-Razi say, I heard Muhammad al-Jurayri say, I heard Abu Nasr al-Isbahani say, I heard Abu Ali al-Rudbari say, I heard al-Junaid say to a man who discoursed upon divine gnosis and said, the possessors of gnosis arrive at the state of abandoning any movements. Through the gates of their devotion and intimate proximity to God, may He be great and exalted. To this, Al-Junayd replied, "This is the teaching of those who preach the abandonment of pious works. This, in my view, is nothing but a deadly sin. Even those people who steal and fornicate are better than those who teach this. The Gnostics, who know God Most High, took their works from God Most High, and through them they will return to Him. Were I to live 1,000 years, I would not miss a single minor act of devotion unless I were prevented from it by forces beyond my control."
Jazakallah khairan wa
وإياكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد.
Bismillah. Sahel ibn Abdullah al-Tustari rahimahullah ta'ala said, "Not a day passes by but that the exalted cries out, O my servant, you treat me unjustly. I remember you, but you forget me. I invite you to myself, but you go to other. I take away afflictions from you, but you continue to sin. O son of Adam, what will you have to say on the morrow when you meet me?" He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "Devotion is not sound for anyone until he feels no concern for four things: hunger, nakedness, poverty, and disgrace." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "The Sufi is he who would not object if his blood were shed and his property taken." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "Five things express the beauty of a being: when the poor appear rich, when the hungry appear satisfied, when those with heavy hearts appear joyful, when love is shown to an enemy, when feebleness does not appear despite fasting the whole day and praying the whole night." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "Chivalry means following the sunnah." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "Certainty comes from an abundance of faith and its inward realization. Certainty is a branch of faith and short of confirming the trust of faith. And the beginning of certainty is unveiling." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "The mystic path is to be covered through the stations of turning towards God, repentance, forgiveness of sins, loveliness, steadfastness, meditation, gnosis, spiritual discourse, and intimacy with God." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "The carnal self, ego, is the real cause of evil and the worst enemy of the seeker of God. Thus, self-mortification is indispensable for the attainment of spiritual discipline." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "If anyone shuts his eye to God for a single moment, he will never be rightly guided all his life long, because to regard other than God is to be handed over to other than God, and one who is left at the mercy of other than God is lost. Therefore, the life of contemplatives is the time during which they enjoy contemplation, time spent in ocular vision. Ocular vision they do not reckon as life, for that to them, is really death." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "Allah protects the hearts of those who protect their members from doing evil. No one whose heart is protected by Allah will be allowed by Him to feel insecure. Whoever receives Allah's security is transformed by Him into a leader who is followed by the people. Who is a guide appointed by Allah is Whoever is a guide appointed by Allah is made by Him into an example of perfection." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, he was asked, "When is the dervish saved from his ego?" He answered, "When he will not allow his ego to concern itself with any other time but the moment within which he is. That is when the Sufi will find peace." He rahimahullah ta'ala said, "The sign of love of God and the Quran is the Apostle Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The sign of the love of the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the Sunnah and the love of the Sunnah and the hereafter, and the sign of the love of the hereafter is the dislike of the world. Finally, the sign of the dislike of the world is to take from the world as much as is sufficient for one's bare needs." He, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, if a man closes his eyes to God but the twinkling of an eye, he will not be guided for the length of his life. He also said, God did not strengthen the pious through compulsion, He strengthened them through faith. He, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, the ulama, the renouncers and the worshippers departed from this world, and their hearts locked. Only the hearts of the witnesses and sincere devotees were opened. He, rahimahullah ta'ala, said there are three kinds of ilm. Ilm from which God is ilm from God, which is the science of law, ilm from God, which is the science of Sufi states, and ilm from God, which is the knowledge of His attributes and qualities. He, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, knowledge is established by gnosis, and the intellect is established by knowledge. But as for gnosis, it is established by by its own essence. He, rahimahullah ta'ala, said someone asked about good conduct of Sufis. He replied, its minimal requirements were to suffer evil with forbearance, to abstain from retribution, and to have compassion for him who wrongs you. It is these qualities which are characteristic of the Sufis and not what is said and committed by the simulators. Their perverted claims are denounced. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Bismillah. Muhammad.
Manners to be observed by teachers and students. The fifth duty is that a student should not miss any branch of knowledge. He should try to become perfect in them, as all branches of learning help one another, and some branches are allied with others. If a man does not get a thing, it becomes his enemy. God says, when they do not find guidance, they say, it is an age-long lie. A poet said, a sweet thing is bitter in the mouth of a patient as sweet water is tasteless to a sick man. Good knowledge is acquired according to one's genius. It leads man to God or helps him in that way. Each branch of knowledge has got its fixed place. He who guards it is like a guard who patrols the frontiers in jihad. Each has got a rank in it, and each has got a reward in the hereafter according to his rank. The only condition required is that the object of acquisition of knowledge should be to please God. The sixth duty of a student is that he should not take up all branches of knowledge at a time, but should take up the most important one at first, as life is not sufficient for all branches of knowledge. A little learning, if required with enthusiasm, perfects. If a little learning, if acquired with enthusiasm, perfects the knowledge of the hereafter, or the sciences of the worldly usages and the sciences of revelation. The object of the science of worldly usages is to acquire spiritual knowledge. The goal of the spiritual knowledge is to know God. Our object by this knowledge is not that belief which is handed down from generations to generations. Our object for this knowledge is to acquire light arising out from certain faith which God casts in soul. Such light was acquired by Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, if the faith of the people of the world is weighed with the faith of Abu Bakr, his faith would be heavy. In short, the highest and the noblest of all science is to know God. This science is like a sea of which the depth cannot be ascertained. In this science, the highest rank is that of the prophets, then of the friends of Allah, and finally that of those who follow him. It is those prophets. It has been narrated that the portraits of two ancient wise men were seen on the wall of a mosque. One of them held a piece of paper in which it was written, "If you purify everything, don't understand that you have even purified one thing till you know God, and know that He is the cause of all causes and the creator of everything." In the hand of the second man there was a scroll in which it was written, "I removed thirst before by drinking water, and then I have come to know God. But when I have come to know God, my thirst was quenched without any water." The seventh duty of a student is that he should not take up a new branch of learning till he has learned fully the previous branch of learning, because it is requisite for the acquisition of knowledge. One branch of knowledge is a guide to another branch. God says, "Whoso has been given the Quran recites it with due recitation." In other words, he does not take up one learning till he masters the previous one. Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajh said, "Don't conceal truth from men. Rather know the truth, then you will be the master of truths." The eighth duty of a student is to know the causes for which noble sciences are known. It can be known from two things: nobility of its fruit and the authenticity of its principles. Take, for example, the science of religion as medicine. The fruit of the science of religion is to gain an eternal life, and the fruit of the other is to gain a temporary life. From these points of view, the science of religion is more noble as it results in more noble, as its result is more noble. Take up mathematics and astrology. The former is nobler because the former is more authentic in its foundations. From this, it is clear that the science of knowledge of God, of his angels, and of his books and of his prophets is the noblest, and also the branches of knowledge which help it. The
جزاك
ninth
الله خيرا محمد
وصلى الله
وصلى
على
الله على
سيدنا محمد.
سيدنا محمد. بسم الله.